Uh, hello. Is it Dave or David, or do you not mind?
Yeah, let's go, Dave. For the sake of brevity.
Okay, all right. Hi, Dave. I'm Howard, which is just kind of Howard, really.
All
Um,
right.
we haven't spoken before, but I've done interviews with. I did an interview with your bass player at the Forum in London and I'm trying to think who you were supporting. It's a good few years ago now.
Hmm. Cool.
Um, but nice to meet you. My name's Howard, singing UK thrash band Acid Rain, who've been around since like '87, and I've been doing stand-up comedy for 20 years.
Oh, cool.
So just to give you an idea of who you're talking to, because I've been on your end a lot of the time, and sometimes you kind of never know who it is that you're speaking to.
Right.
Um, so thanks for doing this. How's it been? Is this your first of the day?
Yeah, this is the first interview of the day.
Great. How many you got lined up?
What do I have? I think I have 4 or 5 more today.
Right, right. I found myself, it's one of those things where it's like, oh Christ, I've got like five, six, seven interviews today. And then you say like, oh, there's only two next week. And you're like, okay, so what's wrong with next week? All of a sudden
Right.
it's like, you dread the amount of interviews, but when they're not
Right.
there, it's like, well, what's the problem with that?
Right. Right. Yeah.
It's
Do people not care what's going on?
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh shit, are we not popular anymore?
Right. Just like that. All it takes is one week. You know. I
Yeah.
went on the Talking Bollocks podcast, and then all the interviews dried up.
I really hope that we don't look back on this one day and go, Jesus, that was pretty accurate, dude.
Right. Right.
um, but yeah, it's kind of like, well, yeah, back in the day, you do a few magazines, job done, really.
Yeah.
But now it's just, yeah, you're talking to me, you're doing interviews, you're doing podcasts, you're doing like written interviews. There's a whole kind of like, well, just a mass of admin that follows up, your album coming out, despite the fact that you've done so much work on it, to then to bring it out, and
It's
then
funny you mentioned that the written interviews because I'm just thinking now I haven't done a single written interview for this whole album cycle,
wow,
not one.
really,
Yeah, yeah.
wow,
I mean, I sent Metal Blade like kind of track by track written breakdowns for each song that I think go out to different interviewers to just kind of maybe familiarize themselves with like the material, like like on a
yeah,
little bit of a deeper level, like in terms of what the songs are about, or maybe like just even like a general blurb of what what the record is conceptually about. But I don't know, who knows, maybe just some people just take that and put it out there if they're doing like just kind of more of like a basic print thing,
yeah,
or certainly for um, like when we release a single that will go out. So I'll see like the quote that I had kind of written up about like a particular song or about like a particular, the concept of the record that will be like at part of the meat of the article or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
So I don't have to do like 50 quotes for 50 different metal publications that are all picking the song up.
yeah,
But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I didn't even it didn't even cross my mind until right now because I used to do so many written interviews.
yeah,
And I think because like everyone has a podcast now or a YouTube
yeah.
channel or like whatever, I think people are just maybe preferring to do it more in in person slash
Yeah, yeah,
in
sure.
person.
Um,
Yeah.
I also, I mean, I think I think there's a certain, there's also, it kind of plays into the fact that people don't really like writing either.
Yeah. Or
It's kind
reading.
of, yeah, yeah. Hey, fuck it, throw that in on top. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Why do we
Right.
bother with these words? Um,
Right.
but yeah, because my band being like a bit older, we've got fairly old school fans, and so you do get like old school interviews. So I got quite a lot of email stuff. But then again, that was 2019, and as we all know,
Right.
that was 100 years ago.
Right.
Because post COVID, like everything has changed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it may be a thing that people just aren't doing them anymore.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who
Who
knows?
knows?
I won't miss doing them. I got to be
You're
honest. Yeah, good. Well, I don't know about you, but I have a Word document with loads of stuff I could cut and paste, because it's like, if you're going to ask me these boring questions that everyone asks, sorry, but you're going to
Right,
get the same answer.
right, right, right.
It's But anyway, my research was listening to the album,
Great.
which I always find works really well. And yeah, I mean, the first word that springs to mind is well, two words actually: fucking brutal. Um, yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, were you in a bad mood or something for a long time?
Yeah, I guess there was some extra uh, negative energy built up during the pandemic that I had to kind of purge myself of. Um, but yeah, I would agree that it's definitely, I think it's our most brutal. I mean, I feel like every band says, "Oh, it's the most brutal album yet," right? But
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know. I feel like it feel like having had time away from it for a while, because we completed this record like over a year ago, and then
yeah,
there was obviously multiple issues with the pandemic in terms of, like, okay, there's the general shutdowns, and then now we're seeing the aftermath of that in terms
yeah.
of supply chain and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, we had to kind of basically, we handed it in, and they were like, cool, it's not going to come out for a year because all the vinyl plants are so backed up. And it was just like, fuck, like we didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had time, I kind of had to move on mentally from that, and work on other projects, or just whatever, like teaching. And um but yeah, like kind of now that it's fresh for everybody else, of course, like I'm like having to repost it. You listen to it again, you're like, oh yeah, this is like a pretty goddamn aggressive record. So it's nice that I
Yeah.
still feel proud of it like a year later, and not like, oh god, I'm sick of this already. So that's a good thing.
Well, but presumably in the last 12 months, you're not like getting together and rehearsing every week or every month and playing through these songs, because you kind of need to have that energy and that enthusiasm for them when you hit the road, when you're going to be playing
Right,
them every night.
right.
So you were saying you had to get busy with other stuff, teaching and stuff. So what, from a band perspective, was it just a case of, right, okay, let's take 12 months off, or should we start writing a new record? It's a kind of weird position to be thrown into.
Yeah, well, so we don't have the luxury of getting together to practice
Right.
anyway, because we're all so spread out. It's weird. Like, I know a lot of bands like that now,
Yeah, same here. But
where it's just
ultimately,
everyone's kind of in different areas. I mean, our drummer lives in Vancouver. Like Brett's in like Richmond, Virginia. Our touring guitar player like lives in California. So we're all over the place.
right. Yeah.
I wish we all lived in the same area, because I do miss those days of like just getting together and like fucking jamming in a room and just feeling some loud
Yeah.
amps, and it's a cathartic release. But um it is what it is.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think for me, I just kind of move on and like just start writing other stuff. Like I don't think about it like writing for Revocation is a job necessarily. Like, it's definitely like a labor of love, and Revocation still is like a passion project for me, even though it's like my main gig. I'm still like passionate to write Revocation songs.
Yeah.
So I don't look at it like, all right, well, I need to take time off, or okay, we put that record out, but we're not getting together to jam. There's nothing on the horizon, so it doesn't make sense to me to write more Revocation
Yeah.
music
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
For me, like, I look at it like, if I have a riff, or if just something like comes out and if it sounds like Revocation to me, I'm gonna record it and catalog it, and
Yeah.
file it away for later.
Yeah. 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 It's gonna go into the riff bank.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I absolutely get it. I absolutely get it. I'm in the same position. Although when you were reciting where all your members live, I felt a bit embarrassed, because obviously I live in the UK and we think we live far away from each other. So I'm not even going to go down that route. But it's a similar position, as in, it's like, it's bringing everybody together. There's got to be good reasons for it. Um, But yeah, those when you were talking about like those days of loud amps in the face and getting in a room and all the rest of it, and I was thinking, yeah, especially this time of the year, in summer when it's like it's really hot and you go into the rehearsal room and it's even fucking hotter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking like pre-aircon as well, and when you just go in there and just go, right, let's you just go for it, and everybody's just like dripping in sweat and all the rest. And sometimes that's like where the real magic happens.
Right.
But it's not always or ever possible these days. But given all the projects, I mean, how much teaching do you do?
I do a fair amount of teaching. It's not like 40 hours a week or anything like that, but I've got a good core group of students, and I feel like it's always kind of growing. I mean, right now I think I did like I've been doing so many interviews and different podcasts. I think I'm just popping up on more people's radars. So last week I had like 3 or 4 new people that emailed me through my website, and I had to basically be like, hey, like I actually can't take on new students until like this after this next tour now, because like Mondays are totally blocked out with interviews,
Yeah,
and then like I've got all these other like they're essentially like just other pieces of content that I need to film. So like sort of features for other websites. So teaching a riff or talking about other my
yeah,
favorite albums that influence me, like all stuff that requires like
time.
setting up my own video equipment and lighting the room and making sure my audio work, like just I mean just to get going. When I'm filming myself, I feel like it takes like at least like a half hour to get going with
Yeah,
the setup and the test shot and make sure everything's good. So
yeah,
and it's I'm sure if I've done it like 100 times I'll get faster at it, but it's still a relatively new thing
yeah,
for me.
yeah,
It's not like I have like 100 YouTube videos under my belt or anything like that. So it takes it takes time, um
yeah,
and it's a learning process. So yeah, and then we're about to leave for tour. So even if I did start teaching them, it's like, okay, we could really only get one lesson in anyway, and then I'd have to kind of stop and put everything on hold. So right
yeah,
now I'm just telling folks, to hit me up like in mid-October. So yeah, if you're listening to this right now and you want a guitar lesson, definitely
yeah.
available. Just hit me up mid-October, and we'll take it from there.
And remember to use the promotional code Talking Bollocks for no discount. Uh,
0%.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you will literally be warned off. In fact, don't mention the podcast at all.
Right, right.
Um, but
Yeah, I charge more if you mention the
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah. Now you're getting it. Yeah,
It's
definitely.
15%
Uh,
extra on top. It's a surcharge.
yes, yeah, yeah. I had to sit on Zoom for half an hour with that motherfucker. Yeah,
Right.
you guys gonna pay. Um, but it is a great way of being self-employed. It's passing on the knowledge and everything else. Um, I mean, you have revocation, you have guitar teaching. Is there any other stuff you do as well that helps pay the bills?
Yeah. Well, I'm very grateful and thankful that I can be self-employed just through music, whether it's with band endeavors, or yeah, or sort of band adjacent things like teaching. I mean,
Yeah,
I think at the end of the day, it kind of all cycles back to the band in different ways, or at least, or maybe it's more of a symbiotic relationship at this point. I'm not really sure, but certainly I
mm-hmm.
think people are reaching out to me for lessons because they are fans of my guitar playing because they heard me play in a band, right? So it
Yeah,
it kind of feeds into itself.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I have like tab books that I sell through Sheet Happens Publishing, so that's like a good kind of passive source of income. It's a lot of work up front. I go through and basically they have someone that transcribes the material, and then I go in and essentially like proofread everything note by note and just make sure like, okay, yeah, this is how I played that. With you said you're the vocalist, right? But you don't play
yeah.
guitar or anything.
No, unfortunately, no.
Okay. Um, there's enough guitar players out there anyway.
There's enough singers too.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
But so like on guitar, there's multiple ways of playing like a single note, right? It's not like piano where middle C is only in one spot. You could place, middle C in a couple different spots on the guitar, and certainly like depending on the note and the octave range, there might be 6 different places you could play a single
Yeah.
high E, for example.
Well, there is slightly a correlation in singing as well, because ultimately, if you're asking for a note, it can be growled, you can have a little bit gravel, you want it clean, do you want it
Right.
head voice, do you want throat voice, So yeah, I get, absolutely get it.
For sure. Um, but for me, from a transcribing perspective, like
Mm,
the notes might be accurate, but maybe where I played them on the neck is inaccurate. So then I might have to go in and
right.
correct that. So because I want it to
Yeah.
be as accurate as possible. So point is the proofreading. They have to transcribe it, and then I have to proofread everything note by note. So like I said, it's a lot of work up front, but then once it's done, it's kind of just like this evergreen kind of thing where it's you go online and you could download it, or we have physical copies of the book. So
Yeah.
that's a good kind of little passive
Yeah.
revenue stream
Yeah.
that I can have. And then also I have signature guitars, I have signature pickups.
Cool,
I
man.
do a signature pedal that was discontinued, but now is coming back through a different company. So I try to work with companies that I'm really passionate about, with stuff that I'm already using, and then create some kind of collaboration there
Yeah.
that's hopefully beneficial to both parties. So I have my Jackson Warrior WR7s; those are for sale. I have DiMarzio pickups. My newest set is called the Occult Classic. I'm not trying to just like plug all my
Yeah. Yeah. But
different
dude,
shit right now, but
yeah, but why not? I asked the question, and that is
right,
such a
right.
cool name as well. The Occult Classic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We thought that was funny. It was kind of, we were like, we gotta tie it in with the record. It's about the occult and
That's
hellish
brilliant.
themes. Or like, oh, cult classic. I'm like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so yeah, that's those are the different kind of sources for me,
Yeah.
where I can kind of avoid getting a day job, which is nice.
Absolutely. And I don't know about you, but when you start out in this game, it's like that's the goal. It's just like I don't need a swimming pool. I just
Right.
need to not be working for anyone else and doing something I love.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing. It's really about doing what you love. Like I'm not riding around in a Ferrari. Like I live in an apartment with roommates. It's not like I'm living in like the lap of luxury or anything like that. But I feel proud that I could get to a self-sustainable point, and it's all with doing something that I love. I'm sure I'd be making way more money had I chosen more of like a career path and tech or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Even if I just was just like a straight up guitar teacher, like teaching full time, and poured everything I had into just okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
do a music school or something like that. Um, because you can make a good living doing shit like that. But yeah, for me, like I just always have to have that creative component to what I'm doing. Like my bands take up a good amount of my time, and a lot of this stuff is like you're not getting paid for your time while you're working on this stuff, like Revocation. It's not like I'm getting like
Yeah.
a stipend to
Yeah.
write or
Yeah.
whatever, right? I
An
mean,
hourly rate.
right, right. But like, I
Yeah.
mean, you go on tour. I mean, I'm getting paid for the show, but I'm not getting paid for like the 9 hours that you're like in the van, or in the bus, like driving to the gig or whatever. So,
Yeah.
um,
It's the opposite.
it,
All of that actually costs money.
right, right, exactly, right.
Yeah.
Because you have to kind of. I mean, playing the show is awesome, right? But it's the all the stuff that happens leading up to the show that
Yeah.
sucks, right? Like the setup
Absolutely.
and the driving and just you know not having the comforts of home. But at the end of the day, we do it because we love it. It's almost like a compulsion. There was like a quote, I forget who said it, but it was like the rewards of fame are not uh, you know money or success, but intoxication. And that's why so many bad artists are unable to give it up, right? And I don't think
Yeah.
he meant intoxication like drinking with your buddies. I think he meant like it's literally like an addiction that kind of like feeds us, right? Like
Oh, hell yeah.
it's getting on stage and having that like cathartic release, even if there was no one there, right? Or one person there, like just having that like emotional release, like you were saying, sweating your ass off, like in the practice
Yeah.
space with just
Yeah.
some loud amps with just your buddies. Like there's a communal thing that's happening there. And then when you add a crowd of, I mean, depending on the club size, right? I mean, you could be
Yeah.
playing in front of You know, I've had some of my most memorable shows in a packed club, and there was like 200 people there, you know, and it felt like you were playing to a million people because just it was just hot and sweaty, and the energy was there, and it was contained, so there was kind of nowhere for that energy to go. It was all just
Yeah.
like in this like nuclear reactor, just
Yeah.
churning and getting more and feeding off itself. I mean, that's like intoxicating, that feeling, right? It's something
Absolutely.
that we all as musicians, you know and love, and it kind of feeds our drive and our desire. So um you know,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think I'm still just that kid playing that basement show, you
Yeah.
know, and now it's just like, okay, cool, we're like on tour with Cannibal Corpse or whatever, and there's 2,000 people here, you know, instead of 30 crammed in this basement. But that's that kind of, it sort of feeds that inner beast in you, like you kind of always want to get back to that place of nostalgia, that place of, you know, that cathartic, creative, burning desire to like have those connections with people in the crowd. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I like it's just a nice bonus now that you can get paid for your
Yeah.
performing.
Yeah.
Um,
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think
'Cause otherwise I'd have to get a real job, but I'd still be out playing shows, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. But you know, the whole thing about that, somebody asked me recently about the difference between being a stand-up and singing in a band, and I was like, it's very, very simple. It's taken me years to figure it out, but it turns out it's very simple. And that is, um, when I play as a comedian, I get congratulations from the crowd. Congratulations that you made us laugh. That was great. But in a band, you get adulation,
Mm,
because if a comedian, I don't mean, I'm not putting it down, just making somebody laugh, but that is it. Whereas in a band, you reach inside someone's chest and you can fuck with their emotions, and you can take them back to first kiss. You can take them back to a place they used to live. You can take them back to a great time in their life, or a horrible time in their life, because that's what music does.
mm.
It just, it hits you where you live, and before you know it, you're having a response to a song that you're like, shit, and that, for me, as you were just talking about then, about that connection and that live thing with people, it's that that some people come and they're like totally obsessed with hearing one song,
Right.
and then other people will be like all about, a different album, and there's just like, everybody has their own perception and their own favorite track or whatever it is. But you get to go out there and just purely deliver, and it's up to them how they react. You put that set list together, and you never know who you're touching in what way. Occasionally, you get to speak to people after the show, and sometimes you get some bizarre feedback, and sometimes you get some, great feedback. Whatever it is,
Right.
it's that ability to like trigger emotions in people with music that I find so powerful.
I have a question for you now, and I'm going to throw it back to you. So what do
Ooh.
you find, more, or is it impossible to answer, but do you find doing stand up more rewarding, or do you find playing shows more rewarding, or are they so different, like could you not kind of live without either one? Like is it like impossible to choose?
Do you know what someone said to me recently? Ideal world, full time, decent size, touring, making a living, decent living with Acid Rain, or full time stand up, blah, blah. And the thing is, the trouble is, practicalities start coming into play. So I ended up going with comedian purely because I haven't got four other people who could fuck my career up for me
Right. Yeah.
attached, which is like, pretty shallow, but pretty true.
Right.
But when it comes down to pure buzz, it's the band every day.
Right.
You just can't.
Interesting.
But you can't beat that volume of energy. You can't beat that intensity.
Right.
It's like, no matter what a comedy gig is like, it could be great, but you're never going to have that intensity
Hmm.
that you get from a music crowd, because it's that passion. you know, because an audience at a gig are like, right, we're fucking bringing it. We're crowd surfing. We're going nuts here. Whereas at a comedy gig, it's like, hey, make me laugh.
Right.
So it's a different dynamic altogether.
Right. I would imagine too, like there's a certain maybe comfort with the band because like there's loud and like with it being a stand-up comedian, there's like literally
Nowhere to
to
hide.
hide.
Yeah.
So like if you bomb, it's like it probably just feels like the worst dagger in your soul. Whereas like, you know, you fuck up a note or, you know, miss a line live or something like that. It's like, well, the band's still going. Like I got about, you know, 120 decibels behind me, kind of backing me up.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
just kind of
Absolutely.
keep going. So there's
Absolutely.
also that.
Yeah, I mean the thing is as well is with the big thing that I notice is as a comic, you come off stage. If I've just closed a club, you know, headlining sounds stupid in comedy to me. You're closing, and you close, you come off, and you've had a great show. You're absolutely buzzing, and you walk into a dressing room, and no one wants to fucking hear it. No one wants to talk to you about your set. They've done their shows. Yeah, I saw that. Oh, it went well. Yeah, well done. So yeah, anyway, I was buying no one cares.
Right.
So when you come off stage and there's like 3, 4, 5 of you to go, oh man, what about this song? And you see that dude over there? He knew every fucking word of every song, you know, and there's none of that. Absolutely none of it. So it's all self-contained. So it's like, you know, you don't even have buddies to share that adrenaline with. So hence a lot of stand-up comedians end up being alcoholics.
Right.
You know, because we work in pubs and bars, and it's like, right, okay, so I'm still buzzing. I'm gonna have a beer.
Right.
You know, and yeah, you know, I've been there, seen that, done that. I mean, I can still drink, but I just decided to not.
Who do you think parties harder, comedians or musicians?
Oh, musicians every day of the week.
Okay. So
Oh
so
yeah,
the comedian, it's more of just like a internal
yeah,
alcoholism,
yeah,
whereas
yeah.
musicians, it's an external alcoholism.
Yeah, yeah. It's more. It's singular rather than group.
Right.
Yeah. It's like
Strength in
yeah,
numbers is what you're saying.
yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Because when it is. It's like that is just that's you summed it up quite well. But it is. It's just completely different. It's completely different, and so not having that, you know, that band camaraderie is something that I miss, because being a stand-up, as you said, being on stage, well, it's the same off stage. You're singular. You know, you're driving, you're doing all the shows that you would with a band, but you're on your own in a car on your own.
Right.
But then again, that flip side is my agent rings me and says, right, I've got 6 shows here. Here are the dates. Here are the fees. You good for that? And you just go, yeah, no problem. I've checked. Yeah, cool. Rather than, hang on, I'll just check with everybody and then I'll get back to you. And oh no, someone's got a wedding. And no, there's that's all. That's like none of that happens.
Right.
So from that point of view, being, being sort of the de facto manager of the band, so I do all of that side. So when in stand up, you're just managing yourself and you're just able to go yes, no, yes, no. That's quite that's quite freeing, but ultimately nowhere near the buzz. You know, nowhere near the buzz of like kids flying over a barrier and, you know, fucking stage diving. And also, you know, we're hopefully we're doing South America in March. No one's asking me to go to South America to tell jokes.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, music has that. There's a universal language to music where, like you might be particularly successful in your own home country or whatever. But yeah, I mean, even just English speaking countries, like there's UK slang that's going to be different than like Australian slang. It's going to be different than American slang. So a joke that you do that might be contingent upon even like, you know, like kind of like a dialect or whatever, or your delivery might not land somewhere else because they might be like, oh, I don't, you know, what's
oh mate, cultural different.
Whereas music, it could be, you know, I mean,
doesn't
I
matter.
listen to bands. I mean, the majority of the death metal I listen to, I can't understand. They could be singing in any language, and it wouldn't
Yeah.
matter, you know.
Yeah.
Um, if I'm listening to some like gore grind vocalist, it's not like I'm going to be able to, make out what the hell they're saying to begin
Yeah.
with. But there is that musical, or that universal language that comes with musical expression.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. The cultural references are really important, and you constantly have to keep update. I mean, I'm 52 now, and
Right,
I was gigging with a comedian literally about 3 months ago, and his cultural reference for a huge female pop star was Madonna.
right,
And his gag didn't really like do very well, and he came off and he was like, I've been struggling with that recently, and I was like, dude, I'm sorry to tell you this, but not everyone knows who Madonna is anymore. She's not the top of the pile for kids in their 20s or even their 30s.
right,
You know,
right,
it's like you've got to keep updating.
right.
You've constantly got to keep updating.
Yeah.
um but that's just, like you say, music has no borders. Music is
Yeah.
just for everybody in every country.
Mhm.
Look, I'm aware of what the time is. Have you got other people coming in yet?
Um, I've got another interview right at noon, but we could keep chatting.
Oh, cool, good, good. I'm
Yep,
pleased. I'm pleased because
yep,
we're on a roll here, not talking
yep.
about your new album.
It's all
Record.
good, This is, I've talked about the new album enough.
Well, look,
I know.
being in
I'm
the
just
band.
asking you about your stand-up comedy career. It's like we've reversed the
Yeah,
roles here.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Record company's going to listen to this and go, David, that's not your role in
Right,
interviews,
right,
okay?
right. You're
But
not the interviewer, Dave.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Um, but the thing is, this is sort of where I'm coming from, because I know what it's like to be on the treadmill of like, so how did you pick that producer and why the album title and the artwork's great? Tell us, how did you? There's enough of that out there. That's that. Everybody can pick that up if they want.
Right.
But I think it's more interesting to find out about, the people behind the music, and and passions and obsessions and and stuff like that. Because so far we've done what it's like being self-employed, the differences between being in a band and a comedian.
Right.
I mentioned your album once. It is out, folks. Okay, so make sure you stream, download, buy physical. And I don't mean do one of those. Do all of those, obviously. But that is, just to go back to something you said very much earlier, that about the vinyl plants being so backed up. That is just, that comes out of nowhere, doesn't it? No
Right.
one sees that coming.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, wow, we have our very own supply chain issue.
Right. I know it is one of those things where, yeah, when you hear like supply chain issues, like, I don't know, you think about like McDonald's or Nike or something like that. You don't
Yeah.
think like, oh, it's going to affect my underground death metal band.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
but we're also connected, right? We live in a global economy and everything. I mean, even like the material that the vinyls are made out of, right? Like
Yeah.
everything, like where that stuff comes from, some refinery somewhere, right? I mean, it all gets backed up, and it's affected the guitar sales. Sorry, it hasn't
Yeah.
affected the guitar sales, but it's affected like royalty distribution, because they're like, oh, you've sold X amount of guitars. I'm like, oh, that's good. But you're not going to see, you don't get paid until they ship, and they're sitting on a shipping container,
Yeah.
somewhere in Port Authority of like on the West Coast somewhere, and there's about 100 shipping containers in
Yeah.
front of yours that need to get and then there's union, and there's all these different things that come into play there. So
Yeah. It's crazy.
yeah. So
It's
it's
crazy.
definitely it's wild to think about how many different um, things get affected, because yeah, we are living in this same kind of financial ecosystem, as it were.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's insane right now. It's like, we're all suffering inflation. We're all suffering ludicrous power prices. I mean, yeah, gas, electric, well, oil
Right.
prices goes up. They're all continue going up. Gas prices over where you are and over where we are just like going up, up, up. Although it has just come down over here for the first time in God knows how long. Um, but the thing, it's the knock-on effects. It's really weird because I'll walk into a supermarket and you see like and you see shelves where the bread is.
I think I
And
lost you there.
oh no, really? I'm still here, dude. Can you hear me? Oh no. Are you there? Ah, you're back.
We're
You
back.
moved. We're back. Cool. I was just saying, it's like walking into a supermarket now and you see like the bread section and there's like 3 loaves of bread left. I'm no longer surprised.
Right.
It's just like, okay, well, that's it. That's the way it is.
Right.
But having said that, I do get the feeling that there is people out there using the excuses of COVID and supply chain issues for like pretty much everything.
Right.
It's like, friends coming to a party, you're going to leave early. Why are you leaving early? Oh, COVID, supply chain
Great
issues.
excuse if you don't want to go to a party, though.
Oh man, it is the best. It is the best. I had like people just recently. We were doing shows, putting people on the guest list, and it's wow, a lot of you've got COVID within the last 24 hours.
Right.
It's like no, we've really upped the excuses because it used to be just the kids.
Right.
Oh, why are you leaving early?
Now
Or
the kids have COVID.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Or
Yeah.
well, I have COVID, and I can't come. I might. Yeah, it's
Right. Yeah. And if
crazy, but it's
if you have kids, you got even more excuses because you could like be totally fine, but then you blame it on the kids. Like, oh, one of my kids has the sniffles. Like, I don't want to risk it.
yeah, absolutely.
Perfect
Speaking
excuse.
speaking of which, do you have a family? Do you have aspirations to have a family? If you don't,
I don't have a family. I have I wasn't like raised by wolves or something like that. Like I have like a
I was
family
just
that raised
thinking,
me.
yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
have a fam.
yeah.
I don't
I
have
came
kids
out.
or anything like
I
that.
came out of an egg in the desert one day,
Right. It
and
was
yeah,
alien. The egg opened up and
yeah. Um,
uh,
but from
yeah, yeah,
but
no,
from a
yeah, no.
personal
I
point of
don't have
view,
any kids. The notion of kids, like, kind of when I was like young, like a younger man, like I definitely didn't want kids, like at all. Now, as I feel like as I get older, I'm still leaning more on the no side, but there's part of me that's like, if I've
yeah,
met the right person, and it was like this kind of
yeah,
like if I met like the woman of my dreams and it's like this kind of deal breaker, it would
yeah,
be more, it would be like a more of a decision that I would weigh. So I
yeah,
can't say how I'd react, you know, just yet, but like I feel like it would be. Whereas like before, I think I would be more like, all right, well, it's just not going to work out. Like, you really want kids and I don't, so like let's just go our separate ways. Now I think it
yes,
would be more of like something I would sort of wrestle with there. But it does concern me, like, not even like I think how I would do it as a father. I think I would be a good dad. It's more like I'm concerned for like where the world is kind of going in terms of just climate change,
yeah,
political unrest. I mean, obviously, like, not to keep bringing up the COVID things. I'm sure everyone's fucking sick of talking about it, but just
yeah,
seeing how we kind of all do live in this sort of house of cards. Like, everything's going perfectly well, like until it's not, right? And
yeah,
like, and with the COVID, I mean, obviously it was affected. People are still dealing with the fallout from it. Not to minimize any of the death and chaos that it caused, but like in the grand scheme of pandemics, if we're just looking purely at like mortality rate, right? Like it could have been like way worse, right?
oh
Like
God,
in
yes, yeah,
percentage wise, in terms of what the percentage of mortality was, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I don't want to say we got lucky with that one, right? Because so many people lost loved ones and or didn't die but are dealing with effects of long COVID and shit
yeah,
like that. But
yeah,
even if we had
absolutely,
like a 10 to 15% mortality rate, I mean, we had what, like a 1 to 2% mortality rate, I guess, depending on
yeah,
your age group and your, like, a myriad of other health, kind of pre-existing conditions, as they say in America. But we can see how much havoc that caused,
yeah,
with just a 1 to 2%. If it was 10-15%, like some kind of weird avian flu or something like that
yeah,
goes airborne, like, because when they have those, like, like if there's like a weird bird flu, like in a chicken coop, like they like euthanize like the entire like flock of birds, like right there, because it's like they know it's gonna like kill like most of the bird population anyway, and also like they don't want it like jumping from like bird to human because it's so lethal and so
Yeah.
the veracity of some of those viruses is so brutal. So yeah, it just, I think it kind of gave everybody pause, or at least it certainly gave me pause to to think like, oh man, there's so many variables that could go wrong, and like, are we going to start seeing more and more of those things? I mean, the monkeypox outbreak, and all these
Yeah.
different things, like, as the weather gets warmer, is that going to allow for different types of insects to live in different types of the year? Is that going to
Yeah.
create like a whole new kind of viral or bacterial kind of season where like things can thrive for longer?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so, I mean, even like, as the climate changes, like, and human beings are looking for different resources, we're encroaching into territories that, Mother Nature maybe doesn't like want us in. And as we go further in there, like, is that just going to create the next zoonotic outbreak? So I don't want to be all, doom and gloom here, but, when these are the types of things that unfortunately, go through my mind, right? I
Yeah.
kind of
No,
play out like worst
I,
case scenarios. Like, I'm already here, right? And like, if it all ends tomorrow, like I had a great run, like I got to play music, got to like do what I love for a living, and share, to me, which is one of the most purest human experiences you can have, which is like creating art and sharing it with others. Not, obviously there's, I think, we all do things for the ego, both like conscious and unconscious, right? But like,
yeah.
but the best compliment I can receive is like, oh, like, your music really like affected me like on an emotional level, or like, oh, like it really like
Yes.
inspired me. Not even necessarily to
Yeah.
like write, if it's inspired you to play music, or to pick the guitar back up, or to start a band, like that's amazing. But even in other ways, like, oh yeah, like your music inspires me when I, like I'm working out, or your music inspires me when I'm
Yeah.
painting, or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
you're influencing people, not just musicians, but like a whole swath of people, whether they're fellow artists in another avenue of artistic expression, or just someone that's got like a 9 to 5 office job. And I had a guy the other day, and he was like, I listen to your music when I'm at work, and like it just like helps my day. It's like,
Yeah.
it's great, it helps the day go by, and like you're like, oh, it's great to know that you can provide like not just purely entertainment, but like something on a deeper level to people, right?
Yes. Yeah.
um
And also, I think also, as well as that, there's that, like, what I love is when like, people are like, oh man, I got it on the day of release, and the fact that people are, that you can give people excitement, that something you do is something that someone else looks forward to
right, they get, yeah,
doing,
they're
seeing, being
excited.
yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like that's the coolest. That's like,
Right. So like I said, I had a good, I feel like I've had a good run. I'm not responsible for anybody else. Like if it like turns into like Mad Max in like, 20 years, like
20
like
months.
I'll look back fondly on like, oh, remember we had the lockdown? Like that was fun. Like I could still like get
Yeah.
food and stuff, and then it just kind of just like now I'm
Yeah.
like, barbecuing like a lizard in like the like 140-degree like Sahara desert somewhere, like where everything is just,
Yeah. Yeah.
swelteringly hot, and
You
there's
you live you live two
roaming
you
bands of
live
cannibals and stuff. So like
yeah
I'll
you live
look back fondly.
you live 2 blocks down from Thunderdome. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
won't have like another, like I won't have like a kid to like, oh, I gotta like, okay, cool. I born you into this hellscape here. Thank me later.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe maybe I'm being too much of a, have too much of a defeatist attitude. And maybe,
Yeah, but
I don't know.
to be honest with you, David, I think what you're doing is being is admirable, because a lot of people, it's like, hey, I want to be a dad, so I'm going to have a kid.
Right.
And a wee bit selfish, maybe. It's like, well, and what you're doing is, weighing up the pros, the cons, and because most people's decisions to procreate are exactly that. They are decisions, and it is done for the benefit of the relationship or the individual.
Mm.
as opposed to seeing the wider picture. And well, how about we talk about the person who's not here yet and what they might have to look forward to, and is
Right.
this something that we should do or not? Personally, I'm 52 and haven't had kids, and I'm certainly not going to have them now.
Right.
Um, and I think similar to you, there was a time in my life where it's like, look, if I meet the one and she wants to have kids, then I'm going to be a dad. There's definitely going to be a conversation to be had, but I'm going to end up being a dad.
Right.
Um, but then I kind of broke through that. Yeah. And realized that I was so fucking busy. The chances of me actually meeting the one are really, really small anyway.
Right.
So,
Right. At
shit
the end of the
happens.
day, more barbecue lizard for us, right? So
Yeah, yeah. I hope you like tail. It's my turn
right,
for the head.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. I really fucking hope this doesn't come true. And by the way, for anybody listening, not that I know of, David does not have an illness. You're not planning on passing away any minute or anything like that.
No, no, no. I'm just projecting, maybe 15, 20 years into the future when it's, just a full on,
Yeah,
Mad Max war zone in the streets.
absolutely. Yeah, when you're my age,
Right.
I'll be. Yeah, I mean, it's zombie apocalypse. I'm basically food. Um, you know,
Right. You're the
yeah,
human shield that
yeah. Everyone on the streets like, Howard, you're up. We've all got kids, families. We are worth saving. You've got no one. Get the fuck out there.
Right, right, right. You're
Yeah,
the bait.
yeah. Here we've put some nails in a baseball bat. Everything should be fine. Go.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Have at it. Swing
We've seen
away.
how that movie ends.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, and it ended a lot better than the TV series because I wish that would end. But there you go. Uh, um, oh man. So yeah, well, we've got as far as the zombie apocalypse. This is quite apt, really.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I really hope no one from the label listens to this. Like, Jesus Christ, what was philosophy hour with you and that guy from England? Yeah. Um, but we're having fun. That's the main thing.
That's right.
Cool. I'm trying to work out your T-shirt that you're wearing.
Wormed. They're
Right.
from Spain, I believe. Yeah.
Really? I haven't heard any wormed. What are wormed like?
Oh, it's crazy. Like, I'd say it's like death metal from the future.
Wow. And I also have to straight away realize that having talked about, I hope your label doesn't hear that. Then I've just dove straight into, hey, let's promote a band you're not even in.
They're sick though. If you listen to Worm, they're great.
Oh man, I will be doing that this evening, without a
Yeah.
doubt. I will be doing that this evening.
Yeah.
So when you heading out, when and where and who with and all of that stuff. Let's try and be vaguely I'll try and be vaguely professional.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah. So we'll do we'll plug it all right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do it, do it. This
Wrap
is
this thing up. We've put a nice bow on it, and just
and now a few messages from our sponsor.
right. So all right. So Netherheaven comes out September 9th. I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but we just released a new track, Recrucified. So check that out if you haven't checked it out yet. Album drops September 9th. We immediately hit the road and do a North American tour. So we'll be doing US and a bunch of cities in Canada. Take a little bit of a break, and then we come to Europe. We'll be in the UK. We're hitting most major cities in Europe. And I forget the exact date that happens, but it's like I think it's in like I want to say like mid January time. So a winter
Right.
tour in Europe. I think it'll be running from January into February.
Ah,
We'll talk a
winter
little bit more
tour
about
in
that
Europe.
lineup since it might be more pertinent to your viewers, but it's us headlining. We're gonna be playing a bunch of tunes off Netherheaven, as well as some more classic tunes from our other back catalog or whatever.
Yeah,
Goat
yeah.
Horse direct support. They've got a new record coming out. That shit
Oh,
rules. Um,
awesome.
Alluvial is playing on that, and Creeping Death is opening. So it's going to be just like a totally stacked lineup. If you're a
Brilliant.
fan of kind of all styles of metal. I mean, we have a death metal, progressive technical edge. Obviously, Goat Or have that blackened, touch to their music. Alluvial are very technical band, and then Creeping Death have almost more of like a, like a OSDM aesthetic going on. So kind of something for everyone there. And yeah, we're just really looking forward to getting back to Europe and headlining there, because it's been quite a bit since our last headline tour. So yeah, so many things are on the horizon there. Really looking forward to getting out there and supporting this record. And I'm sure we'll be, I mean, we're just starting the album cycle, so I'm
Yeah.
sure there'll be more news coming down the
Yeah.
pipeline from there.
Yeah. I mean, and that's European tour winter. I mean, it's like it's the obviously it's the worst time. It's the worst time to tour Europe.
But it's not as
Um,
bad as the US in the winter, I found. Like, I don't know, I think Europe's like a little bit more, I guess, depending on where you are, obviously, like maybe in more Scandinavian countries, it'll be like kind of snowier. But like, we're hitting Spain, we're hitting like southern France on it. So
yeah,
it'll
that'd
be
be fine.
cold, but like, I don't know. I feel like there's nothing worse than like the Midwest in the wintertime of the US is just like bitterly cold, ice on the ground, like just, I mean,
Yeah.
even in March, like we almost didn't make one of the Cannibal shows because I was
Wow.
driving and everyone was just asleep, and like we hit this like stretch of highway where it was all mountainous regions,
Oh
and
no.
luckily everyone out, like I'll never forget, I look over, my bass player wakes up and it's just like snow, there's like cars like that have like kind of pulled off, and we're
Oh.
just like, and I just, everyone's probably like, 2 a.m, like dead asleep, and he looks over and I'm just like white knuckle, gripping the steering wheel, like, we got
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
through. And then when I finally pulled off, our merch guy, we were in a van, so
Yeah.
we traded out shifts. I had driven for like 4 hours or whatever, and the next morning I wake up and he's like, "Dude, it's a good thing you powered through, because that stretch of highway was like shut down. Like when I went like an hour or two to the gas station, people were talking about it, like where we had just come from. They actually closed it off, so we would have like, we
Wow.
just barely made it through before they
Yeah.
shut the whole highway down, and we made the show and everything was fine. So um, I'll be in a nice warm, hopefully warm bus on the
Yeah.
European tour. So
Someone else is
at the
driving.
very least, I won't have to, be dealing with the drives or anything like that. So um,
That sounds absolutely horrific. I mean, I'm a driver, and it's like mountain roads freak me out. Add some snow as well. Um, I know what you mean by white knuckling, because it's
yeah,
like the focus gets to a stage where you are so honed in on what you're doing that
right,
you've forgotten about how fucking shit this is. Do you know what I
right.
mean? It's just like literally the road in front of you, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And you get in that mindset. Whereas, like, if everybody else was awake in the bus, that would have been a nightmare, because then
Mm.
everybody else is saying, oh my God, oh, this is terrible. And it's like just makes it worse.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes when I take on that role, like especially with a night drive, I don't know, I just like, it kind of pumps me up, almost in a fatherly type of way, where you're like, all right, these are,
Ah,
my
yeah.
sleeping cherubs here.
Ah,
I'm
yeah.
the dad right now. I gotta, like, I'm gonna make sure we get through. Uh,
Yeah, that's lovely.
and yeah, it's because we're all in the same boat together, right? Like, if someone doesn't pull their weight here and there, like, I mean, it could affect the whole show.
Yeah.
If I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing this drive, and pulled off, and not that you should drive if you're feeling tired or anything like that. You know what I mean? I mean, get a coffee, make sure you can get through. And
Yeah.
but had I not been able, if I wasn't able to do that, we would have missed the
Yeah.
show. So to me, it's like a little bit of a source of pride when when each member can kind of come through on our team and like just get it done.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the, going all the way just to kind of tie back to the stand-up comedian band talk. Like, when you are in a
Yeah.
band
Yeah.
together, there's other variables, of course, like you were saying, but there's also that camaraderie there when you do
Yeah.
have a really good functioning team.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, it's like a weird like summer camp or something like that. Like everyone's just like,
Yes.
you have the same inside jokes, you have the same mannerisms, like you're kind of this weird like hive mind for like, you know, a few months out of the year. But
Yeah.
there's something very special in that, I think.
Oh
And
yeah.
you know, it's the playing of the show, but it's also just kind of like conquering the elements and traversing these massive expanses, and having like a team there to experience it with, but also to help you get through it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
to lend an ear if you're having a tough time, you know, or
Yeah.
to share a beer after the show, and have that experience together and share in that in a communal way, I think is super special. And that's also what keeps me going. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Netherheaven coming out September 9th.
Yeah, yeah. Order it now. Available in all good shops, online and
Available
physical.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I totally
I
agree though.
got
Is that
Howard, I got a split because I got
okay?
an
Cool.
interview in like
Brilliant.
1 minute.
No worries. I've kept you long enough, Dave. I feel like I've got another brother. I will. I'll definitely be along to the London show in the UK. All right.
Awesome. I'll see you there, man.
See you there, mate. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.